We're now ready to put 2 layers of water-soluble stabilizer on top of our hoop. You can see we have 2 layers here. Yours may look slightly different. There's different brands. You're now going to put your fabric right side up. Remember, you want the right side facing up. Get it centered on your hoop. You may have a different type of hooping system. And then place your hoop on. You're going to go ahead and make sure your fabric's smooth and even in your hoop. You're now ready to take it to your embroidery machine. I've now placed my hoop onto my machine, and everybody's machine is different. This is a multi-needle machine, so it's larger, but if you have one that's not, it will still work, as long as your hoop is big enough to hold this design. So on this machine, I have the feature of being able to trace it and make sure it's not going to hit my hoop. If you have that ability, it's a good idea to try it. So it's going to go around and show me where it's going to actually stitch the design perimeter that it's inside of. Okay, I've already set up my machine with the different colors. We're not going to be using as many different colors on this particular design, but you can use multiple colors depending on what you like. We're going to use some darker colors so that you can see that. So when I put it into my machine, my software, I've told it where to stop. In this case, you're going to, on this particular design, you're going to stitch out the first 3 colors, and then you're going to want to stop and apply your appliques. The appliques are already prepared with the fusible on the back and the paper. You're going to want to remove your paper backings to prepare all your appliques that are in your pattern so that they're ready to place down. I've also got a little mini iron that I will be ironing the appliques down while they're in the hoop. You can use a mini iron, you can use a regular iron, you can use glue sticks for embroidery, spray adhesive, whatever technique you're used to using to then fuse them down a little bit just so they stay in place while you're stitching. We actually cut the appliques to the size we need, so we're not doing it where we place down fabric, stitch it out and trim it. But if that's the technique you like to use, you can certainly go ahead and stitch down the placement lines, apply larger pieces of fabric, stitch down the next lines that hold it in place, and then trim it. So that's really up to you. We're going to go ahead and start our machine. We're going to go ahead and let that stitch all the way out, and then we'll go to our next step, which will be applying the appliques. So we're going to place our appliques down, and the appliques are slightly larger than your stitching line, and that's what we want them to do. This particular fusible web has a sticky backing, so it helps to stick down a little bit. So that's why I'm pressing it down. I'm using Steam-A-Seam Light. No, Steam-A-Seam 2 Light is what it's called. I'm just kind of tacking it in place there. And I'm going to apply each little applique. You can see how fun that really is. It's all of a sudden it's coming to life. It's a great technique. On this particular fabric that we're using right now, it's actually a batik that's dyed with different colors of dyes, and that's how we get this different gradation. You could use ombres, so anything you like. Solid colors would work as well, but that's why you see the green and the red on there. Okay, I'm almost done. I'm going to put my last little applique. I'm using this ham. It's a tailor's ham, and I'm using this to put underneath because of the fact I am ironing right on my machine, so I don't burn my hand, to just give me a solid surface to tack to. Okay, I think we're ready. We're going to just go ahead and start the machine and let it finish stitching out. Our project's now finished stitching out, but I just wanted to talk to you about choosing some thread colors, because depending on the fabric you use. This is the thread originally that I thought about using for my lizards, which would have worked fine, but it's very close to my background color that you can see there. So I chose a different, more bluish green for the lizards to have a little better contrast, so that it would show up a little better. You can pick whatever you like, but that's just something to think about. You might want to lay your thread out onto your fabric and kind of decide if you think you like that look of the contrast or not. See how nice the lizards show up now, and how all our appliques have stitching around them. The outside square stitching is where you're going, what you will use for your finished project, to be able to know where to trim. You're going to trim 1/4 inch out from that particular stitching line. and I'm going to just tack it down. This just holds it in place so that when the machine is stitching and it wants to jump up and down because it's vibrating, it just gives it a little extra holding power there.
Do the part of saying about holding the ham up, because it was zoomed in and didn't show very much. Let me get back out a little bit. Okay.
I'm now going to use just a small iron to tack it down. Remember, I told you before you could take it to your ironing board and use a large iron. You could use an embroidery glue stick. You could use spray adhesive. You could also make a big piece of fabric, put a big piece of fabric down and trim it, whichever technique you like best. I'm doing this actually still on the machine, so I'm going to use this ham to put underneath so I don't burn my hand.